Hey, I'm Chad. This is Alex Novicki. How you doing?
Very good. How we doing tonight, Chad?
Good. This is a very, very long overdue episode of Interview with an Albany Brew Crafter. We just shot a review of this, so people out there might not know what we're talking about. So what are we drinking now?
This is my most recent effort at brewing a homebrew barley wine. I think it didn't come out quite as nice as my previous effort, but it's still a big malty English style barley wine. And
yeah, we just reviewed those beers, so I'll put a link to those in the comment or in the description box of this video. So, anyways, on with the real interview. Get the vitals out of the way. How old are you? Where are you from? And what do you do for a living?
I am 35. I'm originally from Connecticut, but I've been living in Albany for 10 years, and I work for CNSE, the College of Nanoscale Science, and
cool.
Actually trying to get more into business stuff, so I'm looking to make a little career change, but...
Are you a nanoscientist?
That's right.
Okay. So did you get into home brewing first or craft beer first? And
craft beer first.
So what was like your awakening or epiphany or whatever?
Growing up, my older brother was always into craft beer, and he was into like Sierra Nevada when like Sierra Nevada was like an alternative choice. Like
right.
what's Sierra Nevada? He lived in
Saranac.
He lived in Burlington in the early '90s, and he would talk about Magic Hat. Oh, it's great brewery, Magic Hat. That was when they were brewing their own beer still, and not like Pyramid.
Right.
Whatever. But
they were good.
But so I think I always had like an awareness of what craft brew was, and. In college we drank a lot of Yingling, which I thought was like kind of craft-like. And I think in many ways, I'm not sure that the distinction that it is not a craft beer is fair.
It is now. They just changed the...
Did they finally change that?
Yeah.
I mean, that ups the amount of craft beer that is brewed in the country significantly. I don't know if you've ever seen their brewery, but it's a big brewery.
So how did you get into home brewing?
If I read a lot of history and I watch a lot of history programs on TV, and you read about like our forefathers, the founding fathers.
Right.
These guys, they promulgated the Constitution and fought the Revolution and settled this country, and still had time to homebrew beer and to make their own whiskey and all kinds of crazy stuff. I said, if people 300 years ago can make beer, I can probably make beer, and because I know a lot about beer, I think I can make good beer.
What was the first thing you made?
The first thing that I made was a pale ale that I actually had to dump because it got infected.
Oh.
But one of my first brews after that was a chocolate stout, and I took that up to the Thorough Brews.
Yeah.
And that was my first Thorough Brews meeting, and that won the meeting beer tasting that night.
What year was that?
2010, I think.
Okay. So, do you brew all grain or extract?
I switched over about a year and a half ago, and I'm only brewing all grain now.
Yeah. What kind of equipment do you use?
I have a 10-gallon Gatorade mash tun and a 10-gallon boil pot and a 5-gallon pot that I've been using for sparging.
Do you come up with the recipes yourself?
Half the time, I will just go to the store and buy a bunch of ingredients, a bunch of hops, like what I think will taste good.
Right.
What I think will what hops I'm interested in. If I'd heard about beer with some hop, well, maybe I'll try something like that, or different profile malts, or and sometimes I have a bunch of recipe books, so sometimes I'll look through my books and my wife will buy me a recipe book, and I feel obliged to make
Charlie Papazian or?
I recently got a clone book that had some neat clones in it. It had some Avery clones and one of the pale ales that I have fermenting right now is a Watershed clone. So I think it's 50-50. Sometimes I'm just feeling adventurous and I want to make something like the beer that I brewed a couple days ago. I've just got 12 pounds of two-row malt and a bunch of New Zealand hops, and now I've got a New Zealand hop beer coming up.
Cool. Now, do you keg or bottle? Or both?
I mostly keg now. Bottling is tedious. Sometimes I'll brew like 5.5 gallons, and I will keg 5 gallons, and I'll bottle.
Right.
Half gallon. I'll bottle like a 6-pack or something, and then that's nice because I can have beers for entering competitions or taking back to my family.
So do you have like a multi-tap kegerator, or do you have like a chest freezer with like all hand pumps? Or
no, I've got the I do have a kegerator. It's just a single tap.
Okay, I used to have one of those.
Yeah.
Have you brewed any lagers?
I have not brewed a lager. Every winter I think about it because my basement goes probably down into the upper 50s.
Right.
It's not terribly well insulated apparently, but I don't know. I haven't tried it yet.
Would you consider yourself a novice, intermediate, or expert homebrewer?
I would consider myself definitely intermediate and moving into expert. I would hope that I'm moving into expert, but
yeah,
I think
that's... How many? Do you know how many brews how many batches you've done over the years?
Probably.
Get your notebook there. You don't number them.
I know. I don't.
Go through one day and just number them all.
Yeah, exactly. But I think probably between 25 and 30.
Over 4 years or so.
Yeah, over. Yeah, I think I've been brewing for about 6 years.
Wow. All right. So, what are your favorite and least favorite styles of beer to drink?
Okay, my favorite styles. I'm drinking a lot of pale ales right now. I think I think everybody is on this sliding appreciation for hops.
Right.
I think everybody kind of goes, sometimes they like a malty beer, sometimes they like a hoppy beer, or at least I do, I guess. And I just came through a long period of drinking mostly like stouts and porters, and now I'm drinking a lot of really hoppy beers again. And a beer that I just had recently that I really, really appreciated was a beer from this New Zealand company, MOA, called Hobbit. It's a play on the word Hobbit because they filmed the Lord of the Rings movies down there, and that was sort of the inspiration for my New Zealand hop beer.
Right. What's like your most hated style?
Oh, jeez. My most hated style.
We should say least favorite.
Okay, yeah, that's probably that's fair. I don't like fruit beers. In fact, I was talking with somebody recently. I don't like an apple beer. I don't like that.
Red's apple ale.
That's not. I still haven't tried that. I had.
I've had an apple beer. They're called ciders.
No. I had an apple beer at the pump station, and this is not anything against pump station beers. I like a wide variety of pump station beers.
Yeah, I do too.
But that apple beer put me off the genre.
I'll have to try it.
And it's just it's so personal. I think it's great if people like Red's apple ale. That's great for them. I like so many different types of beers.
Now, do you have a favorite style to brew? Is there any one recipe you keep doing over and over, or?
No. I brewed the barley wine twice. That's the only beer that I've repeated. I've made a variety of different porters and stouts. Actually, that's not true. I guess I've made 2 vanilla porters too, and that's a nice winter beer. I still have it on tap, so This year I was all off schedule. My Christmas beer fell in late January. Then was the
Do you have a least favorite style to brew?
Brewing's so fun, you know. It's such an adventure because, you know, every time you do it, it's going to be a little different. Even though, you know, you can make it almost exactly the same, but it can end up tasting different. Like these beers.
Yeah.
I think like the 2 barley wines that I brewed, you know, they were almost exactly the same, but they ended up tasting pretty differently.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, the fun of it is just expanding your style. I always try to use some new ingredient if it's a new hop or a new piece of equipment or a new technique. I'm always trying to innovate the way that I'm brewing. I don't ever want to look back and say, you know, this beer is the same as the last beer.